Hello， 大家好，欢迎加入一件军外套，每周跟您军事外交 talk， 我是相振为。最近蛮多人在关心我们对美军购出现了交付延迟的状况，那为什么会出现这样的情形？还有我们对美国军购的流程到底是什么？我们今天透过独家访谈来帮大家解密，来听看这段的独家访问。我们今天非常荣幸能够邀请到美国在台协会处长谷立言先生，请他来帮我们说明美国的军售流程。Hello, Director.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We have several questions for you. The first question is: President Lai just announced additional $40 billion defense budget, and what's the U.S. Stance towards this announcement?
Well, as you may have seen, we warmly welcomed President Lai's announcement on the new special budget. We think this is an important step towards increasing peace through deterrence, and we look forward to continuing discussions on how we can strengthen Taiwan's self-defense requirements. Of course, we understand this is just the beginning of a process. In every democracy, every budget issue has to go through the legislative process, but I remain very confident that in the end of the day, that all of the parties in Taiwan will come together on behalf of increased defense spending, because I think there is a shared sense of the needs given the regional security environment and the threats Taiwan faces. But also, if you look at the 2024 presidential election, all three of the candidates supported increased defense spending. When we and U.S. Congress members have talked to members of the Legislative Yuan, we've heard a very consistent message of support for increasing Taiwan's self-defense capabilities. You may have seen a number of U.S. members of Congress from both parties, both the Senate and the House, have also endorsed the announcement on the increased defense budget. So I would say we remain quite optimistic that this will be a smooth process, but we look forward to answering questions from our Taiwan friends in the legislature once they get into the detailed review of the budget. I would say I think it's important for Taiwanese citizens to understand, though, that some of the criticism of increasing Taiwan's defense spending will unlikely receive support or understanding from the international community. I'll give you an example of a couple of the arguments we hear. I would say, firstly, the idea that Taiwan increasing its defense spending is going to increase the risk of conflict, I think is not something the international community is concerned. In fact, I think many countries are worried that the underinvestment by Taiwan in its defense capabilities has actually increased the risk of a conflict. So, for example, during the period where Taiwan's defense spending went from 3% to 2% of GDP, the People's Liberation Army's budget more than doubled. And so what we see as Taiwan doing right now in increasing its defense expenditures is trying to restore the strategic balance that unfortunately I think has been somewhat eroded in the last couple of years. And that strategic balance really underpinned peace in the Taiwan Strait for many, many decades. The second issue I think it's important to understand the international context on is regarding whether you can spend on defense and other economic priorities. But if you look at countries in Europe, most all the NATO countries, Japan, Korea, Australia, all of these countries are significantly increasing their defense expenditures because they understand the threats that we face in the world today. And I would say one thing that almost all of these countries have in common is that the economic and fiscal challenges they face actually are much more severe than Taiwan. Take, for example, Japan. Japan's economy this year is growing at less than one-tenth of Taiwan's GDP growth. And on debt, the average per capita debt load for Japanese citizens is more than 10 times the debt load for Taiwan citizens. And for that matter, if you look at the People's Republic of China as well, they are facing very significant structural economic challenges. They have a very severe debt issue, as well as a underfunded social safety net. However, we don't see them slowing down at all their defense expenditures. And so the trend in the world is very quite clear. Now, we understand every democratic system, decisions on how to allocate fiscal resources is a matter for democratic debate. However, I do think it's important for everybody to understand that the decisions Taiwan makes in its defense expenditures not only impact Taiwan's future, but also peace and security around the world. And of course, for the United States, we have a strong interest in this matter because, as a matter of policy, we oppose any change in Taiwan's status through force or coercion. And as a matter of law, the Taiwan Relations Act requires us to provide defense articles to Taiwan and to maintain sufficient deterrent capabilities so that force or coercion can't be used. But it's very difficult for the United States to do that if Taiwan doesn't invest in its own self-defense capabilities. And so, again, I think we're very optimistic that the Taiwan society, Taiwan's political leadership will come together, and of course, through a democratic debate on the details. But I think the importance of increasing Taiwan's defense investments is something that should enjoy cross-partisan support, just as support for Taiwan's defense in the U.S. Congress. It has a solid bipartisan backing.
But Taiwanese people are concerned about the delay of arms sales. So to help people to better understand FMS and to clarify the rumors, could you please explain about the FMS and process?
Yeah. Right. Now, happy to talk about the foreign military sales process. This is a very collaborative effort between the United States and our security partners around the world. So in the case of Taiwan, the process starts when the Taiwan military identifies a capability gap, a requirement for a new system or new equipment or a new area of training, that they can come to AIT and come to the United States to request assistance. And through a consultative process, we help them identify some potential options. And once Taiwan decides that this is a system or platform they would like to pursue, they submit what's called a letter of request through AIT, which we then refer to the U.S. government for review and evaluation. And at that stage, within the U.S. government, we determine whether this system is appropriate for Taiwan's needs. Is it available? We do a cost estimate and a review over the security and foreign policy implications. Once that, in the executive branch, that process is completed, then we refer to Congress. We notify Congress about the intended sale. And if there's no objections from Congress, at that point, we then send a letter of offer and acceptance to Taiwan that will outline the cost, the timeline, and other details on the program. Once Taiwan accepts that offer, then we go into the execution phase. And so the relevant U.S. Department of War Program Office will identify and start to negotiate with a U.S. company or vendor to fulfill the order. And then there will be, once that is done, we'll go into execution phase. And throughout this process, we have continuous consultations with Taiwan. In the execution phase, what we call a foreign military sales case, we have a process called the program management review. In your typical FMS case, you'll see 10 or even more program management reviews. And these are meetings where the program office from the relevant U.S. military service sits down with their counterparts for Taiwan and talks about the progress of the case, any issues that come up in terms of timelines or cost issues. And collaboratively, we work to maintain the momentum on that. And so this process, I think, Taiwan has quite a bit of experience with, is very comfortable with. I think they appreciate the guarantees it provides because the U.S. government is involved in managing and the oversight of the case together with the U.S. companies. And so this is, I think, a very time-tested approach to foreign military sales. And we continue to vigorously find ways to implement it in as timely manner as possible.
But in terms of delay, how do the U.S. government and Taiwan to work together to ensure that everything is on the timeline?
No, it's a good question. I mean, the vast majority of cases don't encounter significant delays, but sometimes because of supply chain bottlenecks, unexpected events such as COVID, programs will face delays. And again, we have a number of mechanisms, including the program management review process to work with Taiwan to address options for trying to get the programs back on track. I would say, I think there's a misperception about the amount of delays that we've had. I've seen many media references to $20 billion of backlogs. The actual figure is much lower than that. And I think some of the misunderstandings is many times our FMS, when we deliver FMS supplies, there's not a big media rollout. And so I think some people see the absence of a lot of media reports, a suggestion that actually the equipment wasn't delivered because when we do have, for example, M1A2 tanks or HIMARS, oftentimes there's a big splash. But not every system, in fact, probably even the majority of systems don't have that level of kind of visibility. Doesn't mean these things aren't being delivered and delivered on time. So I think that's maybe the result or maybe the cause of some of the misunderstanding on the overall number. I would say the vast majority of the backlog currently relates to the F-16V program. But even on this program, we are working intensely closely with Taiwan through the PMR process, working with the vendors. The U.S. Air Force places a very high priority on this. The F-16V is the most advanced version of the F-16 fighter, and it's a very high demand platform. And so that's one of the reasons the head of the program, also the Air Force General Officer that oversees that, has personally been involved with the PMR process to work through that. And so unfortunately, sometimes you do see delays, but I think we have a process to try to work to shorten those as much as possible. But also because we see an urgent need for Taiwan to acquire critical asymmetric systems, we've opened up other avenues in recent years for Taiwan to obtain capabilities it needs. So for example, the Foreign Military Financing Program, the Presidential Drawdown Authority, and several other legal authorities that we've made available for Taiwan to achieve its procurement objectives. And many of these actually have been funded by the U.S. government. The U.S. Congress has approved over $2 billion worth of support for Taiwan because we see that because of that gap that I talked about before in terms of the cross-strait military balance, we see an urgent need to close that in order to ensure that we are deterring conflict and ensuring peace.
So can I follow up this question? Because as far as I know, there's no deadline in the contract, right? There's only expected date, not a deadline. Is that correct?
So we will, within a foreign military sales contract, as I mentioned, when we offer the letter of offer and acceptance, there's timeline where we expect the deliveries to happen. Right. But of course, as I mentioned, because of a variety of different factors, things can impact, events can impact that. And so that's why we have the PMR process where we can consult with all of the stakeholders involved and to ensure if the timeline is being met, and if it's not being met, how can we adjust accordingly. How
do U.S. and Taiwan work together to ensure Taiwan is acquiring the right weapons?
Right. I think we have a very strong alignment in our view of Taiwan's defense needs. I don't know if you may have seen recently in the Washington Post, the two most recent Assistant Secretaries of Defense for Indo-Pacific Affairs, Eli Ratner and Randy Shriver, wrote an article. Both of these gentlemen have been intimately involved in U.S.-Taiwan defense cooperation over the last two administrations. But they were highlighting the progress Taiwan has made in acquiring the capabilities that it needs in order to have a credible self-defense. And having worked with both of those gentlemen on these issues, I would fully share that assessment. I think Taiwan understands the need to rapidly acquire asymmetric capabilities such as drones, anti-air, anti-ship missiles, integrated air and missile defense capabilities. I know President Lai has talked about T-Dome very much. I think we share the view of the importance of missile defense, missile and air defense, C4ISR integration. All of these areas I think will give Taiwan much greater capabilities to defend itself. But in addition to equipment, I've also been very impressed with the reforms Taiwan has undertook over in recent years. Since I've been in Taiwan in the last year and a half, I've had the opportunity to visit a lot of operational units and meet frontline personnel, and I've been deeply impressed with their motivation, their high state of readiness. It's not a surprise that this year Taiwan has surpassed its recruitment and retention targets, because I do find the morale in the Taiwan military higher than I've ever seen it in my many years serving in Taiwan. And I think that's a result of a sense of mission, a sense that they have the support of the political leadership. Now the key is to ensure we deliver the tools they need to complete their mission. But also I've been impressed with the societal support for Taiwan's defense. In July, I had the opportunity to observe both the Hangguang exercise as well as the urban resilience exercise, and seeing not only the military but also local governments and the general public coming together and practicing to defend Taiwan, I think sent a very strong message about Taiwan's seriousness in its self-defense. And so I think the public shares the sense that Taiwan has the ability to maintain peace, and this is something that I think all elements of society, and certainly the international community, will deeply appreciate. I mean, ultimately, we see preparing for war as the best way to ensure peace. Yes. And whether your goal is to preserve Taiwan's democracy, whether your goal is to advance cross-strait dialogue, or to win international support, really investing in resilience and defense are critical. From the United States perspective, obviously, our desired end state, or the resolution of tensions or problems across the Taiwan Strait, really should go through dialogue between the two sides to find a solution that is acceptable for the people on both sides. But we believe in order to set the conditions for such a dialogue, you really need to have a credible defense, because a weak Taiwan is not going to create conditions for dialogue. It's only going to invite more coercion and more threats. And so we believe peace and dialogue go hand in hand with deterrence. And so, as I said, I think we're very appreciative of the efforts that Taiwan has made, whether it's in getting the right equipment, whether it's in implementing realistic training, whether it's expanding the reserve component. But I think, again, we have an opportunity right now to move forward and provide Taiwan's soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen with the tools they need to accomplish the mission to preserve peace in the Indo-Pacific.
Thank you so much, Director. So thank you so much for helping us better understand the process of FMS, and we look forward to a stronger security cooperation with the U.S.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
刚刚访谈是不是非常充实呢？但是还是有些大家常常会有的误解，我在这边帮大家做一个厘清。在军购案里面，其实并没有所谓的截止日期，就是没有所谓的 deadline， 只有 expected date， 就是所谓的交付预定日期。但是要注意的是，因为我们是跟美国政府签约，所以美国政府他们有能力也有义务去帮我们跟军火商来追踪这个案子的进度，并且对他们施压，来加快这个交付的流程。那如果今天是由我们政府直接跟军火商签约的话，那自己后续的这些追踪流程就必须要由我方自己来承担。那第三个部分来看的话，是美国政府他们了解到最近有这个因为不管是乌俄战争还是整个供应链的问题，所以他也开始让一些比较机敏性比较低的武器，让台湾能够透过商售的方式来取得。那最有名的案子呢，当然就是美国的 Enduro 无人机，它就让台湾以商售的方式来取得这项武器装备。那最后回到 F-16V 的案子，那毕竟就是 F-16最新的型号，美方他们自己也要先确认它能够飞起来之后呢，还要能够战斗。所以其实在我方虽然说很急切的希望能够取得这一批武器装备，但是我们也要确保它的安全性无虞，而且它有战斗能力，才能够交付我们的空军所使用。那最后我要再呼应一次处长的说法，就是和平靠实力。我们要有好的国防武器，要有精实的训练，才有和平与对话的可能性。好，那以上就是这一集的一件军外套，希望对大家都有帮助。那有任何疑问的话，欢迎在我们下方留言来告诉我们的想法，也记得帮我们订阅、按赞跟分享。那我们就下集再见喽，拜拜。